Alright, hello again. Well, let's start this another time. Now the technical issue has been fixed. We're back to go again. So, Axington, go ahead, redo the beginning, then the countdown.
Hi, sorry about that. OBS was being stinky. We'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. Hopefully everything's fixed now. For some reason OBS didn't save some of my settings when I changed it. So
Enjoy your computers.
yeah, we love OBS.
Away we go.
It's lights out.
And away we go. On the 65th lap. So, as I was saying earlier, the scenario mode is generally you've got to chase someone down or you've got to like stay ahead of someone. This is the easy version. There is a very easy mode, which I'm kind of glad didn't get in because you have to drive in the rain, and I don't like doing that. So it's fairly straightforward. This is Hockenheim, which if any F1 fans from way back when will remember the old version of Hockenheim through the trees and stuff. This one just doesn't have the same feel. Do a cheeky little corner cut there. As long as you don't get a penalty, like, it's fine, I think. I hope. And now we've got to chase down Jenson Button. Not one of my personal favorite drivers of all time, but he was a strong British representative, so, you know, everyone had to cheer him. Yeah. Hamilton was always...
As soon as Hamilton entered the front, it was like, yeah, everyone just disappeared from Button. I mean, Button was good. Okay, this is going to get controversial already, but Button was good as a British driver. It was his... supposedly... Also, hi, yes, I'm Viper, I'm doing co-commentary. Hello. But yeah, so Button did do quite well as a driver for me. He had a career span in 16 years, from 2000 to 2016. And fair to say, he racked up a fair amount of wins, not like loads, but I think it was his perception of winning winning the 2009 title, but he was also winning the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. So I think a lot of people have faith in that. But yeah, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, he was always someone who, like, almost got podiums from the beginning of his career. He almost got quite a few podiums and then didn't break that duck until I think 2004 when he was in the BAR next to Takuma Sato.
Yeah,
I remember
got, podiums and pole position. He got a pole position in Imola. San Marino 2004 was his first pole position, I think. Got quite a few podiums. 2004 got thrown out of the 2005 San Marino Grand Prix because they found an illegal oil. They found an illegal fuel tank to get on past the minimum weight regulations. But yeah, his first win came in 2006, at which point everyone was like, oh god, Button's finally won, he's finally broke his duct. But then 2007 and 8 came and everyone thought, nope, he's never going to win again. 2009 came along and da-da! There you go.
Well,
Yeah,
2009 was kind of weird because the Braum came very, very hot, so to speak, at the beginning of the season. And then they got caught up gradually over a year when everybody else, like, caught up because they want a good car at the end of a season. At the end of a season, as we saw in 2010 for Mercedes, which was basically the 2009 Braum car, the car was bad by the end of a season.
Yeah. All the money ran out. Everything ran out.
Well, they rescued Honda, but Honda was onto a winner, so they shoved a Mercedes engine into the Braum car, and hey-ho, they won some races.
I think we picked between, at the time we were picking between putting a Ferrari engine in it and a Mercedes engine, and Mercedes was the one that they got. There's a lot, I mean, for those that don't know their F1, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we could easily fill this room up with 20 minutes of knowledge, trust me. Yeah, like, altogether, the sport's gone through quite a few different drivers. It's gone through quite a lot as a whole. But besides that, might as well quickly mention about this game in particular. So, F1 2014, well, it's active driver. So F1 2014, obviously released in 2014. I think it was October. So this was based off the same Ego engine as the previous games. I think it was 2012 that started it, the new engine, or 2011, I can't remember what. Well, actually no, 2010 to 2014 had the same engine. But long story short, when this game released back in 2014, it did not go down well. Long story short, so the actual game itself, all of the graphics, and I mean this is to kind of put it blunt, all of the graphics and gameplay mechanics and everything was all based off 2013. They did change the car models, obviously. The engine notes for all the cars did change, although it sounded terrible, in my opinion. And this was the one game, I think this is the one game in F1's history that was the start of the decline for F1, as in the games as a whole. Not to put a downspin on the game, I mean, if you're into it, of course. But for those that aren't aware, so this was the first year of the 1.6 litre hybrid era. So 2014, they threw out the old big thirsty V8 engines that they've had for quite a few years, and they brought in these V6 hybrid turbo engines, which are still in existence today. They still use them today. And they push outwards of nearly 1,000, I think, or even above 1,000 brake horsepower. Which is quite phenomenal, but given you've got hybrid technology and things, it's kind of not surprising. The other thing to mention as well is that this year, as many people may, or even if you don't know your Formula 1, you may know that Mercedes dominated. This was the start of the Mercedes dominance, and is lasting still currently, as of right now, still lasting to this day. Maybe not the 2022 season, but up until last year, 2021, which ended in very controversial circumstances. Again, we won't go there, but yeah, this was the start of Mercedes domination. They designed a car that had the chassis, the engine, the hybrid technology. That's not to say they didn't have the flaws, but yeah, it was it had one or two controversies that year, controversial stuff. You know, controversial things happened that year. Not as many as maybe 2021 or previous years have had, but yeah, it did have a couple of controversial moments in the year. But unsurprisingly, as people may know or may not know, so a lot of the scenario modes were pretty much copied and ripped from the 2013 game, but made slightly different. Obviously, they had to make it different, because otherwise it would have been the same exact game. But obviously, the reason why I think this bombed a lot was because, in my opinion, was because of the fact that this was the time that the new generation of consoles, so the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, had already released. So bear in mind, them consoles came out in 2013. So when this game was supposed to, well, when it got announced, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be released in the Xbox One and the PS4. But no, it didn't. They still made it for the 360 and the PS3. And the PC, of course. But it was a case of, the way Codemasters put it was the fact that not many people had the newer consoles then, which to me would make quite a lot of sense, but even then that's kind of, you know, it's kind of obvious as to why they didn't, but at the same time they could have tried to at least make the effort, in my opinion. Really, truth be told, there is actually a different F1 2014 game altogether. So there's two. There's the official one, which is this one here. The second one, I know a lot of people are thinking, wait a minute, you could use R-Factor or something like that. Yes, you could. You could use that. But believe it or not, F1 2015, which was set in the Ego 3 engine, which came out the following year, had F1 2014 content. That made a lot more sense and was a lot better to play with because it was in the new engine, it was on the new consoles. You still had all the drivers, you could still race all the 20 calendar events, all the races from the 2014 calendar with the 2014 grid. Which made it, again, I think that made it a bit more of a selling point than this game did. So if you do want to play F1 2014, maybe check that out. Yeah, anything you want to mention, Axie?
So like you said, F1 2015, that one also bombed for a different reason. Like it didn't have a solid career mode, didn't really have like scenario mode like this. I think scenario mode, yeah, it was kind of like copy and pasted almost from 2013, but scenario modes were always one of my favorite parts of Formula 1 games. I remember back in 97, 98 playing F1 97 for the N64, and that one had a really cool like challenge mode there, and I think games having these like small little scenarios are really fun, and I kind of miss them personally, but I'm not sure how many people do.
I mean, it was the F1 World Grand Prix. That was a game that was out in late 90s, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm on about. And it had scenario modes, and it had like Giancarlo Fisichella famously getting a puncture in like whilst winning a race, and you had to try and fight through that and get as many points as possible, and just things like that, which made that game really fun.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, obviously scenario mode, for those that aren't aware, scenario mode is still in the games today, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot anymore than it used to. I think it was quite popular back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when F1 games were really kind of coming into the stride of it. Then there was a bit of a dip. Then Codemasters took over. And when Codemasters took over, it started to increase again. But then after this game came out, and as Axie said, the fifth game as well, both games, 2014 and 2015, actually hit Codemasters in a lot of ways. As in, because it bombed and didn't do so well. It kind of begs the question why they bothered trying in the first place. I mean, fair enough, you've got to try, but if you're not, you know, the main argument that was made for this game in particular for 2014, 15 was the handling model was new and the engine was new. And it was, to me, 2015. This is what I usually call it. So 2015 was like the beta for 2016. A bit like Colin McRae Rally 3 and 04. 3 had less content than 04 did, so it kind of worked in that regard. Yeah, so funnily enough, that was also made by Codemasters. But 14 had all the content, had everything to make it right. It was just a case of the console that it came out on, the fact that a lot of people was like, hang on a minute, this is 2013 with 2014 cars and that's it. Nothing's really been changed. Not only that, but the handling model, for some weird reason, they decided to make this a lot more different compared to 2013. For example, in 2012 and 2013, there wasn't much difference on the handling model if you were racing on a gamepad, so a controller, or a steering wheel. In 2014, I believe, I don't know if this is the only one that had the same problem, but 2014 had a major problem, which was, to put a long story short, they had two different control types, and this was what people found out when they first picked this game up. So if you play it on a controller, even if you turn traction control off, your car still grips to the road. And if you played with the steering wheel, the traction control was definitely turned off. If you had it turned on, it felt like it was on. If you turned it off, it was actually off. But with controllers, they couldn't turn it off. Turns out there was something in the game's code that actually stopped it being turned off completely. Don't know why it was enabled in the first place and why it was even a thing, but there was a lot, and I mean a lot of bickering when this game first came out regarding league racing, which was, if anyone's playing, like, leagues actually, I remember hearing about racing leagues having to split up. Now look, I left league racing altogether for about a year or so when this came out. I didn't ever do league racing on this, but when they did league racing, there was a massive uproar between splitting people who raced on a wheel and people who raced on a controller. They split them up because it was that bad and that much of a difference. I'm not talking like people on a wheel were faster by like 5 seconds a lap, but basically if you were driving on a controller, you actually was at a disadvantage. Apart from if it was wet. If it was wet, you actually had an advantage. So rather than cause a load of kerfuffle and go, oh, this and that, basically they split leagues up. So there was, I think it was most notably Apex Online Racing, which is one of the biggest F1 leagues. I think they're still going now. They actually did their leagues and they had to split them up into steering wheel only, so wheel only league I think it was, and a controller only league, because they couldn't put the two together because people who are on a controller could make a really good getaway and just drive away from people on the steering wheel on the left. Basically provided a massive unfair advantage. I know probably for a fact there's not that many people that know about that, but for those that do or may remember, yeah, it was a right nightmare. And basically, I think a lot of these league racers, myself not included on this one, but a lot of league racers were literally screaming at Codemasters like, please fix it. Please fix this game. Please make it more equal on 2015. 2015 was a bit more equal, thankfully. But yeah, for the most part, it was relatively straightforward. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. But yeah, that's interesting for those that didn't know about this. So, there you go. The more you know.
And interestingly, on keyboard, it was as bad as ever.
Yes. I wasn't actually going to mention keyboard, but yeah, keyboard was the same as like having the controller. It had the same problem. Which was pretty ridiculous, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know, even I'm like, I don't know, I have no clue.
I actually forgot that, like, that was the last lap of that scenario, and I was just there, like, just casually just about to drive off again, and it was just like, huh.
Also, we're just rolling into our final scenario. I actually forget what this one was. It's been a while since I've played it. Bend of Right, of course. Good old Kimmy. It's actually funny as well. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but there is a funny moment. I think probably everybody has seen this, but for those that don't know, so the Monaco Grand Prix, which has just happened, not this weekend, but last weekend, there was, I think it was 2006, Kimi Raikkonen's engine failed. I think it was like lap 26 or something, or lap 24. His engine failed, and normally when your car goes bang, you get a scooter or whatever, or a marshal's lift or whatever, and you go back to the pits, and you usually see the driver sat in the pits. Not Kimi Raikkonen. He did not do that. instead, because he was in Monaco and his mates had a boat there with a load of his mates with champagne and everything, he didn't go back to the pits. No. He didn't do any of that. He walked back to his mate's yacht, or whatever it was, and started having a drink, just casually once the race is going. There's actually a funny moment where Kimmy's walking away. It's like, oh, he's walking down the tunnel. It'll take him 20 minutes to get back to the pits. Anyway, they fast forward a couple of laps, and then a couple of laps later, he's there, just sat chilling on his mate's boat, with like a bottle of beer in his hand, and all the rest of it, top off, everything. Like, no, just doesn't care. That was Kimi Räikkönen's style to do that.
To be fair, if I could get away with doing that, I would too. Like, just casually just walking up on a boat instead of walking back, yeah, why not?
And I think, to be honest, anybody would do that. I can't see why you wouldn't. I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I wonder what the debrief must have been like after he did that.
But yeah, the thing is, like, if your engine goes pop, it's like, okay, the debrief is, well, your engine went pop. But Kimi
How do you
did
debrief getting blocked?
yeah. Kimi had so many engine issues in like 2005 and 2006, and just in general during his McLaren career, it was like kind of funny how many engine issues he had.
It's funny as well because someone there's a YouTube channel there's a YouTube channel called The Race, for those that have never heard of it, and they actually had, I think it was like 8 or 9 races that Kimi Räikkönen was going to win or could have won to gain points on Alonso, and a lot of them was he was in the lead and then something happened. Even if it was at the start, he was in the lead, I think it was Imola, engine went bang. He was in the lead at, I think it was at the Nürburgring, the European Grand Prix, and his suspension gave way because he were on last lap and it gave way. He had an engine failure in Monaco. There are all sorts, like loads of races. It was a 2005 season, that was it.
Yeah.
Actually, no, he didn't have an engine failure in Monaco, but he had a lot of different engine failures, accidents. There was Hungary as well, that was a win. Sorry, I'm thinking of 06. 05, yeah. It was the one race that we did. The US Grand Prix, that fast Grand Prix, everyone knows that. Well, that race.
I still find it funny looking back at how much Thiago Montero was celebrating during that race.
It's funny, isn't it?
But at the end of the day, like, that's the only chance he knew he was never standing on an F1 podium again. So why not have a bit of fun, you know?
Yeah, he's like, way! I got John on the podium. It's like, yeah, out of the 6 cars, you only have to beat your teammate in 2 laps.
Yeah, but
It was a farce. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't much. I don't think anything's gonna come as well. I think that's gone down in history.
well, we passed time by a few seconds, but yeah,
Yeah. What was it?
Oh, congratulations.
it was actually a PB.
Oh, wow.
It was a PB
Wait,
by
by
a
how
whole
much?
1.5 seconds.
Okay, my record's safe for now.
Yeah.
It
For
did
now,
go
yeah.
quick
Second of panic.
Phew.
Yeah, I messed up Canada. I was like a couple of seconds slower. And China, I hate China.
I'm not a fan of China, to be fair.
But yeah,
Fun times.
that's F1 2014. Pretty much, the scenario modes are really fun. Easy, very easy is fine, but it has a rain race. And I guess just closing thoughts on this game before I go to Shah is like 2014 is always a bit bittersweet playing just because of like the fact Bianchi is still in this game. And it's always sad going racing in Suzuka with Bianchi there, as any F1 fan will know.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think he's still the last F1 tragedy, not the last Formula tragedy, but yeah. He's still remains the last Formula 1 tragedy they had. Had an accident in 2014, died in 2015, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but Yeah, I think we've got the last run of the day coming up, which I think is one that a lot of people, myself included, of course, is quite looking forward to. But yeah, we'll hand it back to the host now.
Thank you. So, I guess in the meantime, we'll talk about the donation we're currently running, because we're all doing this for a charity. Obviously, it's not just about the racing; it's about the cause we're helping. Because worldwide, suicide ranks as the third leading cause of death in Yao between 15 and 19 years of age, and it's the second leading cause of death for girls of this age group. Early recognition of mental health disorders is essential to reduce suicide rate, improve treatability, and reduce severity of the several illness including depression, psychosis, eating, and substance abuse disorder. Mind thus tries to help bring awareness by providing classes at schools to inform youth on the topic, and through social media campaigns targeting youth to encourage them to be more open about mental health issues. So it's a great cause. Be always generous and help them as much as you can, so we can make sure that the awareness around the mental health issues is more known, and there's more solution about this subject.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very, very good very good cause and everything. And I just showed this car because of how ugly the noses were in 2014. But
Yeah,
GG.
I think it's fair to say. So this one had the Lotus E. I don't know what is the E20. I think it is. Yeah, it was a terrible car. Terrible car with a radical nose. This was the year of the dirty noses. That was 2014.
Yeah.
Like literally,
Oh, right.
you had to. These had to be censored. Like there was pictures that were coming out, and it was like, quick, censor them because they look like some out of an adult industry film.
Yeah, the caterer.
Yeah, it just. Yeah, the caterer in particular was just terrible. But yeah. For now though.
We'll move on to the next game.
Yeah.
GG.
Go to a quick intermission.
Yep, we'll return quickly.